are live.
Good morning, y'all. Hope you enjoyed yesterday's teaching from our dear Palga Rinpoche, a very old friend of mine from way back in Solhema, and currently now of Ladakh. That is the basics you need to use as your foundation underneath your Dzogchen, or it will fall over. When your Dzogchen falls over, it does so under severe stress because it's not strong enough to withstand that. And then you go split and it hurts. Been there, done that. Anyway, today is basic Q&A, as we try to do every month, for all those little niggling Dharma questions on any Dharma subject whatsoever that have arisen and bothered you. Don't, however, ask me questions that you just want me to look up a factoid for you. You have Google too. However, be aware, there are some very unreliable Dharma rumors going around out there on the internet. So please do make sure anything you think you learned from there comes from a reliable site. Garchen Rinpoche's information is pretty reliable. So is Lotsawa House for translations. They're quite reasonable. You can pretty much trust all the little tiny factoids you find at FPTMC? FPMT. I can never remember those initials. And they're a good resource for little factoids, like what's in that and of this, or full description of charnel grounds, or some particular Pure Land that you're curious about. I'm more for the how does it work than the little niggling factoids. So go ahead and type in your questions while we get started. Chuku kundu zombo gombo and dorji sempa garab dorji dan. Shere singe bardu shin labde de dam abzon tata tusum chi. Dzogchen jupe lama la solwa deb. Again pema june la solwa deb. Dorji chang chi tilo narudang. Marpa mila gompo tsatsapa. Na pupadang palden drupa so kargulama nomla solwa deb. O chen lama nomla solwa deb. Nyandu da yundran lama nomla solwa Chen lama namla solwa deb. Kaginwari lama namla solwa deb. Shakya lama namla solwa deb. Alkondu jongdang yerme pa Gungarab dorji jintrag pa Jetidang nisume pa Palamanam che tente chong. Have we got any questions?
Yes.
Let's start.
Okay, I got one. Can you tell us about practicing with prayer wheels? and how to consecrate one by yourself.
Now, neither I nor my teacher, my main teacher, most of my main teachers got particularly into prayer wheels. I know that the bigger the prayer wheel diameter, the more mantra you've got inside it, the more intensely it works. In the Tibetan system, it turns clockwise. I do not know how it is used in the Bon system. Let me refer you on questions of prayer wheels to Garchen Rinpoche, who I'm sure somewhere in his site has some kind of teaching on them, and would definitely know how to consecrate one. Never been a subject of interest for me. There are a number of people in Tibet who go around creating a great deal of digpa by their actions of body, speech, and mind, while doing a prayer wheel to make up for it. I don't think that works. Not particularly well. You just end up with a lot of both kinds of karma orbiting around your mandala. However, if you will focus on gewa, it is a way of increasing gewa, and a very good idea for some people. Next question.
I don't have a 7-bowl setup as my altar is too small. Would a good substitute be to do offering mudras and imagine the offerings instead?
Your altar is not too small. Go buy 7 thimbles with flat bottoms. Use those, pretty ones. Go find little miniature bowls in the Chinese shops, or tiny Japanese sake cups, or a moment.
Yeah, make sure you're not.
Yes, I'm watching my cords. Something like 7 of these. They're quite tiny. You can find even tinier, especially if you hunt around Japanese shops. Maybe even Daiso, of all things. Although I would not necessarily choose plastic myself. The Tibetans have nothing against it. Dollhouse cups or bowls? Go on, be creative. You can find them. Next question.
Just had it 1 minute.
Some people, however, prefer to keep a more Zen-like altar with a stupa. You may use a clear quartz crystal to stand in for a stupa if you don't have one, a text, and a statue symbolizing the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. And in front of that, as an offering, a single light candle, votive, and a bowl of water. In which case you would visualize, as you fill that bowl of water, all sensory delights, including the 7 traditional categories of them. So you could do it that way if that is more towards your aesthetic of simplicity. Check out Trungpa Rinpoche's Shambhala Oh, there's often a vase of flowers there also, fresh flowers, not plastic. Only the Tibetans in the old country tend to use plastic flowers a lot, because that's what you can get. Here you have access to fresh flowers, and I would recommend them. And try to remember to change them often enough. I've got to do that this afternoon, don't I? She said as she noticed the wilting flower on her altar. So if you look at some of the altars that Shambhala creates, they're much more Zen Japanese aesthetic. I believe perhaps Trungpa Rinpoche was more into that, since his people seem to have, to some extent, followed the outward manifestation of his personality as much, perhaps, as they did what he was pointing at with it. Some oopses occurred. Next question.
I appreciate the teachings on the four thoughts, the teachings we had yesterday. However, these teachings do scare and paralyze me. Any suggestion on how to approach it?
If they scare and paralyze you, you have not clearly understood them. Would you be kind enough to add to your question what it is about them that scares and paralyzes you, and I'll see if I can sort that out for you? Next question. They should add back in a bit.
Okay. Could you please speak about Mandala offering practice? Is it necessary to go into retreat, or can I practice at home?
You can practice at home. I have done a full recording of the instructions. However, you wish to do it like any practice, with joyful enthusiasm. You're a child playing with a new toy. So this amazing mandala, all your little grains and beads and rings, you play with them with visualization. You can add, what is those Hispanic things that you nail to trees for?
Milagros?
Milagros to it.
Yeah.
You can add little tiny plastic action figures to it. Tiny elephants. Beads. Have fun so that it becomes enthusiasm. With the long mandala. Have fun visualizing the different things and their meanings, and what it might feel like to ride the precious elephant, to be the precious queen. Have fun with this practice while creating the necessary gewa to be able to have the circumstances for other practices as you go along. Next.
A related question, how to use devotion on the path of Dzogchen?
Merge your mind with your teachers again and again until you really let it in. As simple as that. Not your teacher's personality. Rinpoche and I had an oops with that once when I was first learning to do what I call the Vulcan mind meld with him for translating purposes, so I could do simultaneous translation. We melded too far within our personalities. This was uncomfortable for both of us. I was unable to eat chicken or fish. Didn't look like food to me, and I like chicken and seafood. That annoyed me. He got my hot flashes. I was going through menopause at the time. That annoyed him. So we had to refigure out how to do it, how to merge minds without attempting to merge personalities, because my teacher and I, my root guru, we had incredibly different personalities. About as different as you could get. We saw the world, our patterns, our childhood patterns imposed were so different. He was a Compa cowboy. I was a street kid from New York. Those are different backgrounds with very different personalities that arise from them. Attempting to merge those would only cause indigestion, so it's not your teacher's personality you want to merge with. It's their pristine kata, yishi, their innate primordial awareness. And in the merging of your awareness with the primordially pure, unsullied, never comes and goes, innate pure awareness of your teacher, it goes beyond concept. That's what it's for. Next question.
If you have brain damage, for example, Alzheimer's, you lose access to memory. Does that mean that memory and thoughts reside in the neurological connections in the brain?
It is said that thoughts are the sensation of chi moving through the channels of the brain and heart. You got a big neural plexus down here too, in your abdomen, upper abdomen, around your digestive tract. As you age, and I can tell you this from experience, your ability to juggle factors, your ability to remember names and words diminishes. Your eyesight requires frequent assistance, like reading glasses. Your hearing becomes more difficult, especially in crowded places, with someone who speaks softly. All of this happens since your awareness is not in your thoughts, feelings, or perceptions, nor is it subject to impermanence. The only thing impermanent is what it's aware of in a given moment. The awareness itself always was and will be. So becoming senile, as I have noticed, has absolutely no effect on your Dzogchen. Only your scholarly ability seems to diminish. This is why when I'm teaching, I like if there's a scholar in the room who can remind me who wrote what and which of which begat I'm looking for, that I clearly remember, but not the name. Next question. Brains deteriorate. Bodies, hands deteriorate. Look at how these are bent now. Wasn't born like that. Everything deteriorates. It's the nature of impermanence. Impermanence is one of the reasons samsara hurts. Nirvana, which is not separate from the here and now, does not suffer. Next question.
Why do some teachers of Dzogchen require a ngondro transmission before working with them?
because they think it will make it easier for the student. Next question. Dzogchen is not easy. A lot of you who think you're doing Dzogchen are actually doing K-Rim. That's because you are doing something. Some teachers, not wanting to imply an untruth to their students, say they're teaching Dzogchen when actually they're teaching another aspect of K-Rim or Tantra. I do that myself. Real Dzogchen. No doing. However, in the beginning, when you try to relax your doer, you do that. Doesn't work. Then you're simply attempting to do a not doing, and that doesn't work. The subtlety of real Dzogchen, since it does not fit in concepts, is very difficult to express. Some teachers feel that they will find it easier to teach a student not doing, non-meditation, if they have already worn out their doing a bit through a ngondro. I don't have time. There isn't a lot of time left. So, and some of you are wicked old like I am, and you don't have time either. So I'll try, on the off chance that it just might go in. Maybe the 20th time I try it, teaching you the real Dzogchen. And if it doesn't go in, I'll give you something to do to help it. It's simply an order of operation. Sometimes what I give you to do to help it is a ngondro. Sometimes it's ordinary ngondro, sometimes it's extraordinary ngondro, sometimes it's parts of the Rushen, which are a kind of Dzogchen ngondro. Because not all of you can accomplish a ngondro. But some of you among those who cannot accomplish a ngondro at this time, an extraordinary ngondro, may, just maybe, catch what I'm pointing at. That's why some teachers teach Dzogchen without a ngondro. Now, as my Bon teacher said to me, one of them, Dzogchen is about a man's own true nature. What right has any person, Lama, teacher, to withhold information about a man's own nature from him? Like not telling you your own address. That would be mean and dorky. Also, real Dzogchen, radical Dzogchen, as what's his name calls it, Keith Dowman, I think, termed that. Real Dzogchen is what I think of it as. I can't tell you about it. It's not in words. It's not a feeling. It's not even a perception. But it is very, very obvious. It's who you really are, not your personality. That comes and goes. You aren't the same. You don't have the same personality you had as a 14-year-old. One would hope. You've matured. You've learned. You've gained some kind of wisdom. Even if it's simply learning not to try to camp in a sea cave with an overhang directly above a smooth, clear beach with no footprints on it but your own. And that flossing is good, and you really want to be doing it while you've got all your teeth so you can keep all your teeth. At least these things you've learned. Simple. Useful. So you're not the same personality. Personality is nothing. Comes and goes, changes. Some of the changes in it can be alarming. When you notice something you've always liked now frightens you, that's alarming. Or something you've always been afraid of you now like, that can also be alarming. But that's just your personality. That's not what we're pointing at. Your personality is just made up of an ongoing, moving clump, entangled clump of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions happening all the time, always changing. Can't keep it. Can't even keep a moment of it. So y'all leave that be. It's not who you really are. It's not even who you really were. You made it up. And you're certainly not going to become who you really want to be. You probably want to be perfect. Most people do. Ain't gonna happen. However, if you look past all that crap, instead of to the what be arising and vanishing in every moment, to the where of it, and then past even the very idea of where and that there. Where samsara and nirvana are singular, not dual. Where the arising and the vanishing of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, and the context of infinite open awareness in which they arise, are not two different things. Subject and object merge. And verbs dance freely in the sky, doing and not doing. You, not little you, Joe Schmo, yes you. Big, not yours exclusively, but not all one either. Those are concepts extremes. Find the middle road, go right through the middle. And don't do anything there. Don't grab anything. Don't try to stabilize this. Don't try to move away from this. Don't do anything. Relax and let go. Even this must be released without liking and grabbing or disliking and shoving. Leave it be exactly as it is. Beyond words and concepts. The insubstantial, transparent phenomena dances freely in awareness as awareness. You are not either exclusively the phenomena nor exclusively the awareness. You are just that. Next question.
One of our Spanish viewers asks, if we have to exhaust all karma, I don't understand the point of accumulating merit. How are they related?
Well, first of all, you can't exhaust all karma. Give it up. Look, consider infinite. When I was in 3rd grade, I had a very good math teacher. Got me to love math for the rest of my life. He said, I want to introduce you to some concepts now in geometry. We're going to do geometry. And he took a piece of chalk and he drew a point on the board. This is a point. Then he drew a line from the point all the way across the backboard saying this is a ray, it starts at a point. And when he got to the windows, he threw the chalk out the window and said, and it keeps going forever. Infinity, forever. You have lived for infinite lives, performed infinite deeds. Even if you take 10 billion away from infinite, you know what's left? Infinite. You can't exhaust all karma. You can release karma. But it is not easy, and the method for doing so is hard to explain. It involves not doing, merging certain doings with not doing, so that they themselves may occur as a not doing. So you have to get really used to those certain doings. Oh, you guys who are trying to practice Togel without doing the proper positions, won't work. And then allowing the karma from the perspective of not doing, allowing the display to run down. This doesn't end karma, stop karma, or get rid of karma. It will, however, eventually release your grip on karma. In Trekcha, which most of you are attempting to practice with greater and lesser success, it changes. Some days you feel like you got it, some days you feel like you don't got it. Once you start noticing that those two thoughts are thoughts, just like all the others, then you're starting to get somewhere. But as long as you're still believing anything you think, well, but this one's real. Keep practicing. You'll get good at it eventually. Karma is not outside of you. I could say the words, let go of your karma, just like I could say, let go of gravity and drift away. You gonna do that? Equally difficult. When you can do one, you can do the other. And no longer be prey to natural laws. It doesn't mean the karma goes away. It means the mind stream opens up, flowing into the ocean, joining the currents in the great ocean. So, you can't exactly exhaust all your karma or using Vajrasattva purify all your karma. You can unravel the bit or two that's actually bothering you most. But in order to allow karma not to be formed, you have to be able to walk through life without desire or aversion at all, even a little, without even an erg of doing, and allow the flow to complete itself. This is not easy. Or maybe this is too damn easy, you can't quite believe it. One or the other or both. However, Gewa creates opportunities for this to occur. Digpa creates lack of opportunities for this to occur. So until this occurs to you, not doing. Oh, I'll try to teach it to you all this summer. Well, not all of you, but those who make it to the retreats on it and who are ready for them. They're not easy. Until you actually can release doing for good. Make Gewa. It will lead the pattern. All karma is a pattern. When you look at it in our usual 4 dimensions, we live in 4 dimensions. Everything has width, it has depth, it has height, and it has duration. Somebody made it, and someday it's going to come apart. So karma is the pattern of how that works. If you slide into a 5th dimension, you can sort of see long body patterns. They're really hard to see your own. Your shadow interferes. Your hopes and fears interferes. Sometimes you can see the long body pattern of a bug, how its life and lives into the past and future will go. Sometimes you can sort of see it in another person, and you're going, ay, 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 ay. Stop hitting yourself. It's gonna hurt. But you can't get that through. So, When you perceive karma simply as a four-dimensional pattern, you can kind of see how it works. They say it is stored in the alaya vinaya, which is something that makes you think you want to look down your shirt for it. I have no idea where the alaya vinaya is in space and time. I believe, however, it refers to that pattern, which is neither precisely inside nor precisely outside. I suppose I could look those words up in Sanskrit, and somebody is welcome to do that and type in a translation here. From Sanskrit, alaya vinaya. But I don't think it'll tell you anything. Words often don't. I think I've done as much on that question as I can.
Okay. One person asks, I have a Dzogchen teacher. I like your teachings very much and feel attracted to dream yoga. Is it okay to change teachers, and do I need to take refuge with you?
What makes you think you only get to have one teacher? You get one root guru, but all that is, and you may never see them again in your life. Whosoever showed you nature of mind in such a way that you glimpsed it first. It's like you only lose your virginity once. Your first lover is going to remain your first lover throughout your life, but you don't have to marry the guy. Hi, Douglas. So, in all of this, as you receive teachings, it's only under certain very specific conditions where you should stick to one teacher. And that's when they're giving you a seriously hard time, and you have spent at least 6 years checking each other out before making that commitment. That's where you're doing a Tilopa Naropa with a single teacher. It is extremely rare. I probably can count the number of students I have that relationship with on one hand. You see, many teachers here in the West have misunderstood the culture enough that they have accepted students who weren't and pushed them farther than they could go, causing messes. Certain of courses in Tibetan are not of courses over here, and vice versa. Oops. Being a Westerner, I'm a hell of a lot more careful with who I trust on that level. I'll teach anyone, but I will drop kick off a cliff very few, and only those I trust not to grab me and pull me over with them. So, unless you are having that kind of relationship with a Dzogchen teacher, in which case, no, you can't come here, you need to stay there. You are most welcome to have 2 or 6 or 10. The more the merrier, provided that works for you. And no, you don't have to take refuge with me to receive my teachings. Good Lord, this is on Facebook, YouTube, it's right out there. My website is completely available. You want to make retreats with me? I've got a limit of 50 people at a time because that's about as many as I can actually work with on that intensity? Sign up for one. Make sure you meet the criteria. Some of them require other things first, so that you don't have an oopsie. You want to join an ongoing teaching group? I meet with everyone every month. Now, there are a few students who I will drop kick off a cliff if they ever give me the opportunity, and I will not do it on purpose. It will be a not doing when it occurs. But I won't withhold that carefully if I can possibly avoid it. But the rest of you, come to the monthly meetings, get to know me. In 5 or 6 years, we may know each other well enough to go deeper into the teacher-student relationship. But traditionally, back in the old country, you check out the teacher for about 3 years. Then you ask. Then the teacher checks you out for another 3 years. Then maybe. Sometimes a vision will cause it, and you know, as occurred with my teacher. Why he accepted me, I have no idea. I think because he had no Westerners at all. He had only 2 students at the time, an old man and a young boy. I came to him from a vision, my vision, and he kept me around because he needed someone to write letters in English for him. After a lot of that, we sort of stuck, although both of us spent the rest of our time together somewhat puzzled by why we landed up with the personality of the other, because we were so unsuitable, personality-wise, and so adamantly suitable, Dzogchen-wise. Enough stories. Did I answer that question?
Yes, and there's a related question. How does one merge minds without merging personalities? What if your personality and your root teacher have very similar aspects?
Well, I use this. It's a mnemonic. When I do this beginning lineage prayer, Zel Rinpoche taught me to do it. Each of the teachers mentioned, as they're mentioned, I open and allow the merging of minds with that entity and all its lineage. So as I go through Kundu Zongpo, Dorji Sempa, Garab Dorji of the 3 words that strike the heart, Shire Singhi, I think that's Saraha, and all the other teachers of the Dzogchen lineage, Guru Rinpoche as well, Dorji Chung, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gompopa, and all the others. My Gelugpa teachers, my Druid teachers, my Native American teachers, my Bon teachers, all of them. In the nature of mind we are. Pa kondujong dang yerme pa. Singular in the awareness of Garab Dorji. Gon Garab Dorji Jintagpa, without separation. That's how. Like anything, practice makes perfect. Whenever I was translating for Rinpoche, most times, he would recite this with me. And that's where we merged with the lineage rather than just with each other. But we merged with both. Both of us merged with the same lineage, reaching up, reaching out, imbibing, embodying. And so I was able to do simultaneous translation for him, which is what he wanted. I mean, I know among Tibetans it's considered disrespectful to do that, but we didn't know that. This is some little guy in a cave, and my only experience of translators was a couple of visits to the United Nations as a school child, where I heard simultaneous translation. I thought that's how it's done. Who knew? So that's why all the other translators who learned in schools, rather than figured it out while doing it with their teacher in a cave, do the stopgap and either take notes or have trained their memory. Doesn't work for me. I can only do simultaneous. Next question.
As you move deeper into practice, what do the rest of the deluded people look like from the high level?
Exactly the same as they always did, people. And Buddhas. And there's no contradiction there. Billions of little Buddhas, big Buddhas, Buddha-nesses, running around pretending to be people. Being people, there's no way to describe that. I mean, it's not, nothing changes. Although sometimes I find myself puzzled by people's stress. It's like, around this? Why? Oh, okay. That's probably personality. I don't know. I'm nothing special. I'm just Lena. Next question.
How has your day-to-day life experience changed after so many years of practice compared to your life before the practice?
It's hard to know what's old age and what's practice. I would say the biggest difference I've noticed after a lot of practice is I'm not sabotaging myself as often. Angst, anxiety, not the sensation of anxiety, but something to focus it on seems less. No, not even. That's a good question. I think I have a better sense of humor. I think I'm going to call it that. And leave it there. Next question.
We have a follow-up from the person who was scared and paralyzed
Yes.
by teachings, and they comment that the fear overwhelms me as chances are low to be reborn as a human being,
So make use of it this time.
having not completed the path in this lifetime.
You don't have to complete it. You just have to get it aimed in the right direction. If you make Gewa, it will cause you to be reborn as human. Understand Gewa and you'll be fine. It's only if you do freeze and refuse to do any Gewa at all that you are likely to not end up human. For example, if you hoard, which is Digpa, collect, gather overly, you're likely to end up as a hungry ghost, whereas if you practice generosity, you're likely to end up as a human or a god. If you spend over much time stoned or drunk, or just chasing sex and food, you are likely to be reborn as an animal. Whereas if you spend time studying, intellectual thought, and whatever practice you're into, both, you're likely to be reborn as a human or a god. If you spend time in your life harming others, swatting bugs, exterminating rodents, being a professional assassin, working in a slaughterhouse, you are likely to be reborn in the hell realms. That's the pattern. However, if you spend much of your life being kind to others, practicing the morality of refraining from killing or harming, you are likely to be reborn as a human or a god. If you practice the 6 paramitas, the first 5 of them are likely to cause you to be reborn as a human or a god. So that's all you have to do. Be generous. Work on your patience. Having more of it, that is. Sense of humor goes with patience. Practice morality, as in don't hurt people. Yeah, that's not too hard. You can do that. Don't steal from people. Yeah, you can do that. Governments aren't people. That's a Tibetan attitude. I've never met a Tibetan that's ever crossed a border without smuggling something, or thinking they were. They consider government somewhat arbitrary, which if you start reading the news, you may find to actually be an accurate perception of most of them. No, just Rinpoche memories. We got a hold of the Vajra, the Dorji, from Guru Rinpoche once, and ended up having to smuggle it all over the world. Big iron Vajra. And of course, with metal alarms, he couldn't carry it in his underwear. It was an interesting trip. It is now in the statue of Guru Rinpoche in Solpena. It had been stolen by the Chinese, sold to an antique shop, to another antique shop, and finally acquired by a Tibetan, I think in Canada, and gifted to Rinpoche. So, look at your behavior, practice the 6 paramitas. They're not hard. They're pretty simple. I've recorded a teaching on them. We may get another teaching on them. I'd like to hear Palga Rinpoche teach those, because he'll give you the very traditional numbers, which I'm too old to remember anymore, without notes, and I can't remember where I put my notes. Never mind. However, it's really easy once you have encountered the instructions to be human again. It's just really hard to get there for the first time. That's the accident of the blind turtle and the floating yoke. However, once you're human and you have encountered the Dharma and you have received the instructions, such as the 6 paramitas, if you choose to practice them, you can end up human, asura, or God. Now, avoiding asura and God and getting human you need to avoid pride and jealousy and competitiveness. Stop trying to win and stop trying to be perfect and be the best, because those lead to asura and God realm respectively. Then you can be human. It's not that hard to do once you've got the instructions. It's getting the instructions the first time that are a bit difficult. Just the 6 paramitas, that's your instructions. Pretty easy. Go read them. Look them up. There's lots of writings on them. Some of them may be a little funky, but basically it'll work. Or go look up the teachings I've given on them that are somewhere floating around YouTube and Facebook, but I don't know where. They may be up on my website, since they're public teachings available to anyone. Next question.
One of our Spanish viewers would like to know the difference between dharmata and dharmadhatu.
I don't know. Go ask a scholar. Both Sanskrit. I call it George myself. Next question.
We have many today.
That's okay. We'll go as long as we can.
Let me find it. 'Cause it was someone had asked a question about the description of Vajrayana as dangerous
Hell yes.
compared to other paths, and if you could explain more about that. What are the dangers? What should people look out for?
Okay, Sutrayana is a gradual path, like a well-maintained road that winds round and round the mountain to the top. Vajrayana, you're going up a cliff. So cliff climbing can be dangerous. You can fall off. In Vajrayana, you're roped together with your teacher. If you fall off and start flailing, they're coming with you. Oops. A number of teachers have died recently of students having Vajrayana accidents and flailing, pulling them right off. You gotta be careful with students. You don't rope yourself to the ones that are gonna flail. However, I may not be brave enough. They may have been much braver than I was. Maybe it's laziness I have. Cowardliness, laziness, whatever it is. It just doesn't seem sensible to me to rope yourself to a person who's going to flail. Anyway, that's Guru Yoga, not Vajrayana. But the key to Vajrayana is having a teacher. It's virtually impossible to do it effectively without teacher and transmission. The accidents that happen have to do with your experience of the teacher and of the transmission. For instance, I had a student. I was teaching some tantric method. I can't even remember what I was teaching them. But they wanted to put it on a swan. Doesn't ride a swan, rides 9 pigs or something else. Or sits on an oven. I can't remember which one I was teaching. It was a tantra. But they just wanted a swan in there somewhere. Westerners, you see, are incredibly creative that way. You'll give them an instruction to a visualization, but they sort of go into a dream time and see it differently. And then they want to keep it the way they saw it rather than the way you told them. That may cause a serious oops. In Vajrayana, you actually need to trust the teacher enough to actually follow the instructions, even if they don't make sense to you yet. Now, once you trust a teacher enough, you're supposed to be able to trust them enough to jump off a cliff if they tell you to. Traditionally, you shouldn't be taking Vajrayana teachings from someone you don't trust that much. I remember a conversation Rinpoche and I had about this. We were on a roof. It was in Milwaukee, of all places. The whys and whereabouts that we were on a roof in Milwaukee is part of a different story. Anyway, we were on the roof and we'd finished what we were doing up there, and we were just standing around, taking the breeze, looking at the view. And Rinpoche said to me, "If I told you to jump off this roof, what would you do?" I thought for a minute, and I said, "Well, Tibetan is not my first language. And there's some traffic noises coming up here, so the first thing I would do is determine whether you actually said that, or whether I misheard something else." I said, "Okay, suppose it turns out that I actually said that. What would you do?" "Well, then I will double check to see whether you were speaking metaphorically or physically. I would inquire of you, do you really want me to physically, with my body, jump off this roof? Because it would be easy for you to be speaking to me in some Dharma poetic twilight speech metaphor and me to accidentally take it solidly." And he says, "Okay, and suppose I did then say, no, I really want you to take your body and jump off this roof. What would you do?" And I thought for a few minutes, and I said, once I had completely convinced myself and checked in with you several times to make sure that I had understood your instructions correctly, I would jump off this roof. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, okay." And we stood there a while. And I said, "Rinpoche, by chance, do you want me to jump off this roof? Is that what this conversation is about?" And he looked at me with shock and said, "Hell no, we were speaking metaphorically." On the way down the stairs, he turned around to me and said, "And now I know it's safe to teach you." You see, what happens is people misunderstand something their teacher says or appears to want from them. Misunderstand the whys and wherefores of it, the cultural connotations of it, or what the fuck is going on. Misread it, misconstrue it, and then act on their misconstruence. And that also is a serious oops by which you can do yourself a mischief in that path. So you've got two main dangers. Not following the instructions as given, adding to them or taking bits away, like insisting on meditating with your eyes closed, which is fine unless you plan to do Dzogchen eventually. Once you get to Gom, you're going to need to have your eyes open, so you might as well make the habit. Not following instructions and misunderstanding the instructions and not double checking when it sounds against common sense. Because it is easier to visualize with your eyes closed, so why do I tell you to do all your tantras with your eyes open, just half open like that and somewhat down, when it's so much easier to see the images in your mind's eye with your eyes closed? Why would I make you do that? That's counter to common sense. So you check in. And I say repeatedly, fine if all you're ever going to do is a tantra and you're not going to do it thoroughly. But if you're going into completion stage at some point, or you're going to actually do yidam practice properly, you're going to have your eyes open while you do it, so make the habit. I'm happy to explain when something is counter common sense, or appears to be. Not all teachers are. Personality. I like shooting the breeze with y'all. These are your two main dangers. Not following and misunderstanding. Avoid them as much as possible. Because all the teacher can control is what they actually say to you, not what you think they said, or what you'd rather do. That's why we check you out, to see if we can trust you too. Next question.
Does White Tara reside in Dewa Chen, and if we chant her mantra when we die, will we be able to go to Dewa Chen as easily as if we chant the Amitabha mantra?
No. White Tara resides in your heart chakra. So does everything else. All the fierce archetypes, yidams, reside in your form chakra up here. And the peaceful ones in your heart chakra. They're not outside of you. And Dewa Chen is and isn't a place. There's several levels of Dewa Chen. The highest level is the clear light of life force that permeates the universe. Awareness itself. Warm and bright. Archetypes do not reside in places. Pure lands are places and states of mind, both. Just as being human is a place, Earth, or rather being Homo sapien, thank you, is a place, Earth. This planet, Sol 3, lesser arm of the galaxy known as Milky Way, it's a specific place. But it is also a state of mind. The ability and interest in communicating abstract issues using language is the characteristic that makes humans human. Homo sapiens are a type of human that exist on this particular planet, in this particular solar system and galaxy. There are many types of humans existing elsewhere. So being human is a state of mind. It's that particular state of mind. Its bad flip side, it's the realm in which the Dharma lives, because Dharma is abstract concepts and we have the ability as humans to express it to each other in words. The flip side of that is, oh dear, I can't shut up. I can't stop expressing things to myself in words. The sound of my own wheels are driving me crazy. So you see, it's neither good nor bad to be human. There are negative issues about being human. It can go to that extreme. But there are also positive issues in that there is a manual around here, and probably around quite several places, that shows the way out. Now, some Pure Lands, to enter them, you need to at least be a stream enterer of Bodhisattva. You need a certain level of realization. Others, you simply need to use the mantra, and there are entire schools of Buddhism that despair of getting enlightened and simply try to get into Dzogchen. It's the Pure Land school, popular in Japan. All I have to do is repeat this mantra enough that I remember to repeat it in the bardo and I'm good. That is actually so. And it's a loophole. And it's only true of Dzogchen. But Amitabha is an archetype, not a guy, as are all the Taras and Chenrezig. They relate to the innate life force nature of the universe, that particular energy, the energy of Bodhisattva. They are manifestations of the energy of Bodhisattva, which is, in broader terms, the urge to embrace, to mate, to merge. We fuck it up and think we can only mate with one person and only merge with them, and then we have to maintain ourselves so that they don't override us, and it gets all fucked up. The original clean urge to just embrace the beautiful dance of dhakas arising and vanishing. To merge with that, to encompass that. The urge to fire off all of your guns at once and blast off into space, dissipating and merging and being embraced by infinity. The symbol of consort practice, Buddhist. Next question.
Do you think dream yoga practice can help to recognize the journey in the bardo after death?
Yes, if you become skilled at it. Next question. That was an easy.
Okay. Give me a moment here to find it. A follow-up to a concept you were discussing earlier, Alaya Vijnana,
Yes.
storehouse consciousness, refers to a level of subliminal mental processes that occur uninterruptedly throughout one's life.
It occurs uninterruptedly throughout one's lives. You see, things you find on the internet are not always completely accurate. It's ongoing. It's mind stream. It is the pattern of your mind stream in 4 dimensions. Your body patterns are included. Result and cause. Once you start seeing the patterns, you will realize that it is not always linear. The cause did not always happen in the past from the result. For example, do you know the pre-Wong fight? The close students always get really twitchy and growly before a Wong. Cause is the Wong. Result is the pre-Wong fight. Now, of course, you're trained not to show it or actually fight with each other, but there's a certain amount of snippiness at minimum that occurs just before the Wongs if you're part of the setup crew. That's just a bleed over from the Wong energy. And if you're not used to it, you don't know how to handle that rise of energy that's going to be about to happen. So you get into snits and grouches and fight with each other. Took ages for Rinpoche to train us out of that. Me and my family, because he'd be here for like 6 months of the year and he'd be doing Wongs and we'd be the setup crew. And so during the pre-Wong treasure hunt, I need a scarf of this exact shade of blue. Quick, to the silks, to the dyes. And I need it for 2 p.m. Lena, make me some Tsampa for Tormas. Okay. Anyway, during this process, Joy and Nyandu and I would often grouch at each other quite severely. The cause was the Wong, but it hadn't happened yet. So you see, it's not as linear as you think it is. Also, and I have a nice karma question for you. Let's say you have a yeast overgrowth, some kind of parasitic yeast that makes you crave sugar, and you have no money. So at the 7-Eleven, you notice the clerk is really busy and there's these donuts. You steal a donut, you put it in your pocket, and you go out and you eat it. Because you had this insane sugar craving and no money. Okay, who gets the karma for stealing the donut? You or the yeast? There are certain parasites that children get that causes them to want to eat dirt, where they get more of the same. Who gets the karma from eating the dirt? Parasite, which is definitely a sentient being, yeast or borderline plant, or the child. It's not linear, that pattern. Next question.
What is the importance of empowerments? Are they needed? Do they have drawbacks?
They have drawbacks, and yes, they're needed. If you wish to practice a tantric practice, such as a yidam, or even vajrasattva, you will do better to have received the introduction to that energy, the telepathic showing, the introduction off plane in realms of the magical introduction to that energy, so that you may realize that same energy which is now known to you yourself. This is done generally in the basic ways of explaining, showing it in symbols, transmitting it by touch, and mentally showing. Telepathy. And a proper Wong uses all three, or all four. in order to actualize becoming that tantric energy that you have been introduced to, which is personified by Tara or Chenrezig or Manjushri or whomever, you need that introduction. The danger is some teachers make you make a promise when you are introduced to maintain the practice of that introduction. They don't want to have gone to all that work with all their students of setting that up and have you just throw it away after. So they make you promise to do the work too. If you break that promise, oops, ouch coming. Also, if you take a wong from a teacher that you cannot respect, it might be a teacher that you don't wish to receive further teachings from as long as you continue to respect them. But if you later disrespect the teacher you took the wong from because you heard a nasty rumor about him or something, and then you pass it on, oops, that's going to hurt eventually. Should not do that. So these would be the main dangers of taking a wong, that you break samaya. Sometimes there is no mantric follow-up given. Rinpoche often didn't. There were a few where he did give a mantric samaya. It varies teacher by teacher. It is also possible, according to some teachers, to receive their wongs as a blessing without taking the samaya. However, the nature of the samaya of respecting the giver of the wong is inherent in the giving and receiving. So you shouldn't be taking a wong if you can't respect the teacher who gave it. Now, sometimes a teacher's behavior in relation to your personality is such that you are not comfortable with it. You don't have to hang around them. That is not what's required. You simply leave respectfully. And don't badmouth them later. Don't disrespect them in thought, word, or deed later. Now that samaya is in every wong. And if you can't do that, you have no business practicing Tantra and no business taking a wong from a teacher that you can't do that with. You're supposed to at least check them out a little bit first. There's wongs on the internet that I've looked at and gone, nah-uh. Not there, not for me. Not getting into that one. I think I answered that now. I've got probably another 2 or 3 questions in me, so.
Okay,
pick.
well, let me pick some. Shoot, someone with a cooking question?
I'll give it a try.
Sure. What suggestions do you have for making a vegan banana bread?
Don't use eggs or milk. I believe psyllium seed can be substituted for eggs, and juice can be substituted for milk. Any fruit juice. You should probably check in for amounts. But I know the mucilagineousness of psyllium seed, if it's ground fine, can be substituted for eggs in cooking. Whether it will work in banana bread, I'm not sure. I rarely cook vegan. Vegetarian frequently, but not so often vegan, only if I have a vegan guest. Otherwise, a pat of butter is likely to go in somewhere. I'm still half Tibetan. Next question.
Is it possible to take refuge with the teacher if they're already dead?
Ceremonially, no. Emotionally, yes. Next question.
Would you be willing to translate the second two lines of the 4 words section of the lineage prayer?
No. First of all, there isn't a foreword.
Well, it's the thing at the bottom of the...
Nah, not right now.
Okay. Someone else asking, I do not believe in reincarnation. Does it matter?
So, in that case, you don't believe in that you are the result of your childhood also? Where on earth do you think you were before you were here? I understand that not everyone remembers, but I wonder whether you are agnostic or atheist on the subject. For example, some people are not convinced of reincarnation, but they don't specifically believe it is not so. Other people believe it is not so because they have another belief system they prefer. All belief systems are made of man talk. None of them are intrinsically real, but many of them are useful around here to explain things. For instance, when you add up the numbers and balance your bank account, you are using Nam Talk to do so. But neither those thoughts nor the things you're thinking about, numbers, are real. You think you are, and you'll fret if the answer comes out too low. And you'll rejoice if it comes out high. But it's just ideas, numbers. Numbers aren't real things. They are useful for counting. There is as much reincarnation as there is your current self resulting from yourself of 10 years ago. Mind stream, not entity. I wonder what belief you are holding tightly instead of reincarnation. You think you're just a chemical reaction? Oh, yeah. But what thinks that? Who are you? Next question.
When using a mala, does each bead represent something we need to be aware of?
Yes, a mantra. When you use your mala, you use it for saying mantras. That's its purpose. So each time you say a mantra, you move your fingers one bead. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Like that. The reason you have other beads is some mantras are quite long. So you have different beads and dangles there. For instance, Like that one was, so you might only want to do 3 of them, or 9 of them, or 7 of them, or 21 of them. Common to want to do 21 taras, or 50, or 54. Mid-beat, half. Once you have done a whole round of malas, then you take this and you move 1 beat up. Would actually go up there, but I'm not losing my place. And when you do a second round, you move another bead up. When the last bead would come up, these come down, and you go to the next one and you move a bead up. When this all goes up, you go to the next one and start moving those. When this is full, you start moving one of these along. They come on and off. They're a little bendy, copper or silver or brass. They come off, and you would move 1 mala bead. They come on. That's how you go up to 1,000,000. You might be doing that with more than 1 mantra at a time, so you might have 1 for 1 mantra and 1 for the other. That's how you use this tool. Next question.
There was a question about whether you would be teaching in France this year. You are setting up for a European trip. And
I
maybe
think
talk a bit
only
about that.
Amsterdam will be the main teaching. I'm doing one of the Rushens over in Poland, and I think that's about it. I don't think I'm going to be in France. I'm going to do a big open public teaching. Is it Amsterdam? Somewhere, but it will get up on the schedule soon because that's coming up not too far away. So I will be seeing all the Europeans at probably the Amsterdam one. Is it Amsterdam?
Maybe. I'm not recalling.
It's
the
either
details.
Amsterdam or Austria, and I can't remember. So I will be somewhere in Europe and teaching openly, and I don't know what yet. No one's told me. They'll tell me eventually.
There's one other question.
Uh-huh.
When a pet is old and experiencing paralysis, incontinence, and pain, how can one communicate with them to know their wishes?
Generally, they will stop eating food unless you really tempt them with delicacies when they are done. When they stop eating and drinking, they're not going to last more than a day or so anyway. And that's how an animal will often make its decision. Okay, I'm done. Not going to try to eat. Letting it go. Next question.
Follow up on the Europe, it's Amsterdam.
It's Amsterdam I'm going to be in. Lovely. I love Amsterdam.
Is it normal to doubt your own teacher? Could it mean that you're not ready for those teachings, or is it an intuition that those teachings won't work or be real?
It's normal to doubt everything, including yourself and your teacher and the law of gravity and everything. Those are called thoughts, discursive thoughts. I would recommend, if you're having problems with some of your thoughts, that you go take the class Working with Thought, and that'll help you out there. Of course, you're going to have thoughts, and some of them will tell you doubts, and sometimes they'll be snarky, and sometimes they'll be grouchy, and sometimes they'll be happy, and sometimes they'll tell you you're in love, and sometimes they'll tell you this, and sometimes they'll tell you that. Pish tosh, it's thoughts. You don't need to bother much with it. All it is you're thinking, and you can't shut up. You're human. Next. And is there one or two good ones, and then I'm gonna call it?
Well, there have been a couple of good questions that talk about emotions in practice. Someone wrote that they were meditating every day, but they still get angry, and are they doing something wrong?
Oh no, you're not supposed to get rid of all your emotions. You just want to strip them naked. I think for you, person who's still troubled by anger, you need to take Working with Thoughts until you're good at it, and then Working with Emotions, which you can also find in chapters 7, 12, and 13 of Flight of Garuda, if you want the short version, or do the retreat with me next time I'm doing it. And that will help you to see your emotions are nothing other than the life force of the universe. The trick is to neither justify them by explaining to yourself why it's perfectly good and right to be so pissed off, or suppress them. Acting on them is a way of suppressing them. Makes you feel better. You're shoving them away. You're getting rid of them. When you are angry and you yell at someone, you feel better afterwards, not so angry. Now they're angry. You just passed it on. So what you want to do is, without acting on the emotion, without suppressing the emotion, trying to make it go away, and without reifying the emotion by talking to yourself about why you're so angry and why it's right and proper and what they did that made you so angry, drop those three. Strip the anger naked of all the thoughts around it. See what it's made out of. One more?
Okay. Can we make our own Mountie pills? How do we do that?
You do 1,000,000 manis into some particular herbs, aru, paru, and churu, I believe, plus sampa. And then you roll little pills. It works better if you get together with a whole bunch of people and make them, because it takes a long time to do 1,000,000 manis. You'll be using one of these by then, I think, because these three only go up to 100,000. And then you blow on those herbs after doing that, and after keeping your speech chakra really clean by not blowing out candles and things. Not blowing unless you're doing a blessing. No whistling during that retreat. And once you've got 1,000,000 done, you blow on the herbs and then roll them into little pills with the sampa and a bit of liquid. Not as easy as it sounds, is it? Anyway, thank you all for joining me. We're about on for a couple hours here. Anything pressing?
No, I did want to add a comment about the Mani pills.
Mm-hmm.
The statue, the Guru Rinpoche statue in Sulpema, has a kapala that's filled with scaled up medicine pills made using this exact same method.
Yep.
The Tibetan community and the monks and nuns of the caves and the local Gampas all were doing this for, I forget how long it took.
Years.
Yeah,
About 2.
It was quite a while.
Scaled up.
I don't know if they blessed the cement specifically. They probably did.
Yep. And it's probably got a core of Aruparu and Churu, because those are traditional. Yes. Anyway, thank you for joining me this time. I'll see you around. Nge wandi nyur duda che